Well, hello there, my fine gardening friends. How the devil are you? Welcome to a beautiful day in equally beautiful Nova Scotia. Obviously, I'm in the greenhouse, so you can't really see that. But outside, the sky is blue. It's only around 3 or 4 degrees here this morning, here in Nova Scotia. About -5 overnight, so we're still having big frosts. You know, rather cold overnight. So I've got to be careful with planting, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. I still can't do lots of things outside, but it's a beautiful day. Spring is in the air. I can hear the birds now and then. Now in the morning, starting to sing. So that's a really nice thing. Lots of jobs to be starting to be getting on with now in the garden, in the greenhouse mostly, but lots of tidying up to do, which I'll come on to in a minute as well. But what have I been up to this last couple of weeks? Well, I've been busy sowing seeds, getting ahead of myself, as you normally do when you get excited in spring. So I have sown. What have I sown? What have I sown in the last couple of weeks? In my book. So that's always a good thing for record purposes, you know, writing down what you've sown. So I have sown a load of peppers, so jalapenos, some red Thai, California Wonder, apple, a new one, some sort of, it's called apple peppers. So that's a sweet pepper. Spinach, broccolini, what else? Peas, fennel I've sown, all inside. So basically everything I've done is in trays inside at the moment. As you can see, I've got like in my sort of weights room there, I've got a south facing big window there. So I put a lot of the seeds. Well, actually, first of all, I put them in my office, which is nice and warm by the window, in the little chicken pots that I've got, and they germinate there. And then once they germinate, it's because it's a north facing wall, I have to take them out there, otherwise they start stretching and getting a bit leggy. So I take them out and I put them into this south facing window. And as you can see, I've got some peppers there, etc. There are some cosmos there, and things like broccolini, etc. and spinach. So I've sown those. I've moved them now into the greenhouse, and as you can see, I've got them there. And I've got some lettuce there as well, and then I cover them at night, and then I put a fleece over them as well, and they're, you know, more hardy, so they should be okay. But I've had some failures. I got ahead of myself. Things like the Caucasian mountain spinach that I sowed in my last video with you guys, my last sort of update. I brought them out and it got really cold overnight, and some cosmos. Stupidly, I put the cosmos in here. And I left it out overnight, and they got absolutely, what we say in South London, mullered. They got absolutely smashed, so they are dead and done. So I've got to re-sow that sort of stuff, and I've re-sown some cosmos, etc. So ups and downs, as you do, you sort of get ahead of yourself and you run out of space. You think, I can put stuff in the greenhouse, but the greenhouse gets really cold overnight on these sort of frosty mornings still. So I've got to be careful there still. So that brings me on to, you know, some of the things we can sort of sow in April coming up now. So it's the 31st of March now. So coming into April, what can we sow? Most things, and it depends if you've got space, doesn't it? Wherever you are, if you're sort of not too bad on the frosts, you can, you know, sow your stuff and then put it in the greenhouse afterwards. But I sort of went through some of the things I have sown, but I'm also going to be sowing, you know, more broccoli, all your greens, your different salads, etc. Now they don't mind cool temperatures, but nothing likes cold temperatures. Nothing likes cold soil, you know, outside. So I really, here in Nova Scotia especially, I don't really want to be planting anything out. So broccoli, greens, peas. So I've done these peas. You can really sow peas outside as soon as the ground can be worked, but like I said, nothing likes cold soil. So what I tend to do with peas, at least initially, is I sow them in the old, I save the toilet rolls over winter, And I really annoy Mrs. F by, you know, save all the toilet rolls, and I've got, you know, toilet rolls piling up everywhere. But I fill them up with compost, and then I fill in between the gaps. See this tray here? I fill in between the gaps there as well, because once it starts warming up, they can tend to dry out a bit quite quickly. So if you've got soil in between, it acts a bit better. So I sow them in there, let them grow up, and then I will transplant them outside once they've got themselves a bit going. So that's good with the peas. What else are we talking about here? Like I said, I've already sown chilies, not tomatoes yet, because they grow on quite quickly. But you know, they all, both chilies, peppers, etc. Toms have a bit of a long time getting to fruit, etc. And we have a short growing season here in Nova Scotia. You know, it doesn't really start to warm up remotely until May, but then we go on until September. But that's still not like a massively long growing season. So I've not sown any tomatoes yet. I'm going to leave that another couple of weeks for tomatoes, because then it'll be, otherwise I can't plant them out until middle of June. I've got, you know, the ones I'm going to plant in the greenhouse, they can go out in May, and then if there's any frost I can cover them, etc. But I'll leave them another couple of weeks, and if you haven't got space, I would leave them a few more weeks before really going to plant your tomatoes and peppers. Wouldn't bother with cucumbers yet, or squash, pumpkins, anything like that, because you know they like really warm temperatures to sort of get them going. And otherwise, if you put them out even in sort of April, May, you know, the frost, they'll be gone and they'll just sulk. So I won't remotely even bother sowing seeds indoors for them until sort of end of April, and then waiting until the middle of June before they go outside. So that's what sort of seeds. Oh, runner beans, bush beans, anything like that, I don't bother with them until sort of the end of April, because they'll come on really quickly once the temperatures warm up a bit. So and again, it's the space thing, isn't it? What do you want to sort of really want to get going? And it's your greens, the things that you can plant out early, especially spinach and broccoli, etc. So those as well. So what else have I been up to? Well, I'm outside now. All of the perennials, etc., that I've left over winter for the bugs, etc., to sort of be in, I've started to cut them down now. So let's have a little look. Got a little video there. Let's have a look, see what I'm doing out there. So some of the main jobs I've got to do at this time of the year in spring, we're just at the end of March here in Nova Scotia, is to cut back all your sort of perennials down to sort of ground level as much as is possible. And one of the big jobs is the beautiful grasses that have provided me with a nice bit of sort of structure over the winter. Something to look at, you know. It's nice, the old waving. You can see against the, well, you can't see against the blue sky with the camera, but it's beautiful either way. But now I want to cut them back ready for the new season. So I'm going to cut it back as hard as I can, but we have to watch out for the new growth. So I don't want to cut the new growth off, if there is any. At this time of year, there's only a few little bits and bobs, and as you can see, one I've done over there, I've cut that back quite hard. That's Calamagrostis, I think. But this one here, so I'm going to cut it back nice and hard, and I can see a little bit of growth in there, and just generally tidy it up, and then the new growth can come through and show me those beautiful seed heads later on in the summer and into the winter. Oh, look, some green growth there, you can't see that, but, and all this sort of side stuff, just generally cut it back nice and neat, ready for the new growth. Now all of this growth, and as you can see in the other bed there, I've cut back lots of the different perennials, the daisies, false indigo, all different sort of growing perennial plants there. As you can see, I've cut a lot of that back, and all of the growth is obviously now quite brown. Now I'm going to, as you can see, I've piled it all there on the down by my compost heaps. Now I'm going to use my shredder and shred that all up nice and neat. Now I can add some of that to the compost heap, but a lot of it, as you can see, is all brown. So a lot, you don't want to add loads and loads of carbon to the compost heap. So what I'm going to do is I'll add a little bit to the compost heap, but the rest of it I'm just going to put back on the old beds and add as a mulch. So that, you know, that's one of the other big jobs we want to do in spring, as much as is possible, is cover your beds with some sort of mulch, whether it be, you know, shredded bark or this shredded brown growth. It's all good stuff, and that's going to break down, be brought into the soil to add some nice bit of compost to the soil. It'll act as a barrier to a lot of the weeds that will be coming through at this time of year. So good. So lay a good couple of inches of that around the beds. I've got lots of beds, so I'm not going to be able to do it to all of them, but you know, where you can, a good, you know, inch or so of some sort of, whether it be compost or, like I said, the shredded bark or the shredded up old brown bits, etc. Really good for the soil. So that's all your sort of deciduous type grasses. I've got to mention there your sort of evergreen grasses. You don't want to cut down like that. So like the sort of bluegrass that I've got there, I'm showing you. What you need to do there is just literally sort of grab the plant and run your fingers through it like a comb, and that will get rid of a lot of the old dead growth, and it will still look scruffy at this time of year, but once you know you've got rid of all of that sort of stuff just by pulling your fingers through it, that will soon sort of grow up and perk up as the sun gets on it, and that will start to look good. But you don't want to cut that stuff back, obviously, because then it won't grow back. And you know, like I said, all the rest of the perennials, cut them down hard, just making sure any new growth, you're not cutting into any new growth, because as you can see, I've got a little bit of new growth coming now, starting to poke its head through. There's some what have I got there? There are some poppies, oriental poppies, starting to poke their heads through. At least the leaves are, and some different plants starting to sort of think about doing a bit of growth at this time of year. So that's good. Just make sure you don't cut into that when you're tidying up all around it. Just give it a bit of space to come up and grow. And one of the last things I'm going to talk about today is I'm also now starting to get out my tender sort of bulbs, etc., like this dahlia, and getting it out, and I'm going to plant it up in a pot. So what I want to do to start with is just get it out of its storage. So I've had that, as you can see there, over winter in my gym in the corner there, just wrapped up, out of frost, nice and secure. And I'm just going to give the bulbs, or the tuber, a good squeeze. Make sure everything's nice and firm. Anything that's squidgy, you want to cut that off. This one's actually feeling good, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pot. What pot have I got? Let's have a look. Pot big enough. So I've got my pot. It's got some compost. Any sort of good compost from the compost heap would be the best. But at this time of year, my compost heap is frozen. So I've just got a good layer of compost in there, and then I'm just going to pop this in, et voila, and then give it a good covering with some compost. Wow, this is a bit frozen still, which is not particularly good. There you go. So I'm just going to leave that. What I'm going to do, is I'm going to again make sure these are protected from frost for the next few weeks. They don't mind a bit of cold. You know, in the UK now, people can often leave them out in the gardens over winter, and you know, even with a bit of frost. But you know, protect them from really cold temperatures now. So I'll probably leave them in the greenhouse here with a bit of fleece over them and let them get going. And then these dahlias I will either pot up to a bigger pot, or I will plant out when we've got a nice bit of growth again after the last frost has gone, sort of mid-June time, and they will do very well. So I'm going to be going through all of my different dahlias, etc., and cannas and gladioli, making sure they're all good, that I've overwintered, and starting to pot them up where possible. A lot of the gladioli I will just leave until June, and then plant them up then. But some of them I'll pot up, and then again I can put them in pots themselves, bigger pots, when they get going. So there we go. There's a few things I'm doing, starting to tidy up the garden. Oh, last bit there. Green shoots of spring. There was me thinking, I was sat outside with a cup of tea, looking at the beds that I just started to tidy up, the veg beds, and I was thinking about the garlic that I planted in the left hand bed, as I was looking at it at the time, thinking, this garlic ain't come up yet. It normally comes up a bit earlier than this, and then literally a couple of days later, there we are, starts to poke its head up, and you can see the green shoots of spring for this year's garlic that I'll be harvesting around sort of late July, August time, and I'm still using the garlic that I've stored over winter from that just one bed's worth of garlic. So really a really good, useful doer is the old garlic. Only, like we've always say, you can get it in the shops, but you know, loads of garlic, easily stored in a couple of trays in a nice cool room over winter, and then just taking it out when you want it. Absolutely superb. So there we go. Cheers. Happy April coming up. Spring is here. Getting warm in the greenhouse. Starting to slowly get warm outside, but I don't care. Spring is here. Job's a good one.